Hi, and welcome to Window on the World, where we speak with students who share their experiences about traveling and what it was like to study abroad and integrate themselves into culture as they take advantage of Missouri Southern study abroad opportunities. I'm your host, Jillian Wirtz, and today we're joined by one of our study abroad students, Brianna Allen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This past fall, Brianna took advantage of Missouri Southern's semester-long study abroad program where she studied film in Milan. So, what made you want to study abroad, and what's your major, and how did that help you?
Oh, my major is mass communications and PR. I just decided to double major last spring, and I wanted to study abroad because ever since I was little, I've always wanted to travel the world, and Italy has always been one of my favorite countries, so that's why I picked Milan to study in.
Have you ever been there before? Or?
No, I'd never been to Italy, so it was kind of a bit scary going over by myself for the first time, but once I was there for the first couple months and got to meet people, it was fine.
Yeah, so everything was really new, and studying abroad especially could be really intimidating at first. So were there any steps that you took previously before you left, like looking up their culture or anything to find out?
Yes, well, I went through International Student Exchange Program, ISEP for short, and I went through a lot of different programs at first just to figure out which one fit me best, and this one worked really well because I was able to use my financial aid through Southern to pay for my experience, which was very great. Yeah.
Awesome. So what was one of your very first experiences, like getting off the plane? Where did you go and how did you feel?
I took about a 22-hour flight, so when I got off the plane, I was actually sick because I was like very jet lagged and tired, and then we had to meet up with the rest of the people who were also studying abroad, and they took us to our apartment, and the Italians drive very fast, so by the time we got to my apartment, I was extremely exhausted, and I took a 3-hour nap, and then all my roommates and I went out for pizza, because of course as soon as you arrive in Italy you have to get pizza.
Of course. Was that one of your favorite things that you ate?
Yeah, it was delicious. The best pizza I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah.
That's so awesome. So when you got there, did you have a couple days off to kind of tour around before you started your semester, or?
So I arrived 2 weeks early so I could take a pre-intensive Italian language course because I didn't know any Italian whatsoever. But the first couple of days we were able to go around, and I went to the Duomo di Milano, which is one of the biggest cathedrals in Italy and the world. And just got to explore and try gelato, which is the best ice cream / custard ever. And just got to meet a lot of different people. We had an orientation, and that's where I met most of my friends from.
Awesome. So you mentioned getting into an apartment. Was it just kind of like an apartment setting, or was it a dorm that was at the school you were at?
Well, it was an actual apartment. It was near Corso Buenos Aires, which is one of the biggest shopping districts in Milan, and I was with 4 other people, one from Japan and the rest were from America. And it was our own apartment. We had to get everything on our own, like toiletries and food and everything.
Awesome. So when you first got there, what was day-to-day culture like as you started to integrate yourself into it?
Well, usually I had to take the metro, or the subway, every day to school. It was about a 20 to 30 minute ride, depending on how early I got up and got on the subway. And then when I got to school, I was in the International Studies building, so I didn't got to integrate myself a lot with the Italians because they kind of had us separated with the international students and the Italian students because all the classes were in Italian. So unless you knew Italian, you couldn't really take a lot of the courses. So I hung around a lot with the international students, and we would usually just have class and then go to Chinatown every Monday and eat lunch together and then homework, and that was pretty much the day, and then trying to survive through learning Italian and getting to know the language. By the end of the 5 months though, I wasn't fluent, but I could go and order food and go to the grocery store and give people directions and stuff like that in Italian.
Wow. So how big was their program? You said that you were kind of with a bunch of other students.
There was about 200 international students from all over the world. Most of them were Americans, but many were from Korea and Japan, China, Saudi Arabia, everywhere.
Wow, so you kind of really got to learn about everybody. And did you kind of just stick with everybody that was in your apartment, or?
No, actually, the first couple of weeks they had Fashion Week in Milan, which was absolutely amazing. And I met a lot of my Korean friends through that, because one night there was the International Studies club that they meet up into different events, and I met some of my Korean friends through that, and then I mostly hung out with my friends from Korea, Japan, and China.
Awesome. So you guys kind of just traveled around. Did you have class every day, sort of like here, or was it just a couple days a week?
I had class like Monday through Thursday, and I did that on purpose so I wouldn't have classes on Friday so I could travel on the weekends. But the classes were drastically different from America. They're longer, so they're about 2 or 3 hour classes. But then you have like breaks in between, and you don't have a lot of homework. It's just a lot of reading. And I only had to do maybe 2 to 3 papers, which was very, very nice.
That is really nice compared to college now. So what was that like? I mean, sitting through your very first class, and you said they're 2 to 3 hours long.
Yeah. My first class was a screenwriting course, which I was so excited to take, and it was actually split into screenwriting and then writing like a short story, and we'd take that short story and then write a 5-minute screenplay from that. And so like the first half would be like the screenwriting teacher, and she would just come in and she introduced herself, and she was absolutely amazing. She got to work on a lot of films in Italy, and she knew like the screenwriter who wrote Braveheart and different things like that. So it was really good networking as well. And then the second half would be the second teacher, and she would come in and talk about the short story part.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a lecture type thing.
Back-to-back lecture, yeah.
And so it was really nice. You didn't really have a lot of homework. You said just a lot of reading.
A lot of reading. We had like thick textbooks that we had to read like every day. And also just like the screenwriting course, we did a lot of different like practices. So we'd have to write like a screenplay every week, but it was only like a short one, so it wasn't that bad. And
was anything different from classes here? I mean, besides just the length, I guess what you were learning and everything as far as like filmmaking, was it a lot different or?
It was very different because here they don't have any film classes except there's one film course. And so learning like different prospects and stuff of screenwriting was very interesting. And I also took a drama class where we were able to perform like a 10-minute play, which was pretty crazy, with like one of like the lead actors at Teatro della Scala, which is like one of the biggest theaters in Italy. So that's another great network that I was able to get through like studying in Italy.
Yeah, and you mentioned just kind of scheduling classes around being able to travel and sightsee. So what other places did you go to? You mentioned in Milan, so you kind of traveled around Italy. What were some of your favorite places?
I think my favorite place in Italy was probably Rome. It was beautiful, but I'm still glad I decided to study in Milan because Rome is so touristy. Like everywhere you go, there's tourists everywhere, and in Milan there's maybe only 3, like the Last Supper and the Duomo, and that's like the main things. Yes, and there's me at the Pantheon, I think if I'm saying that right, in Rome, and that was beautiful. It was a beautiful building.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then this is also a photo. I traveled a lot with my Japanese and Korean friends, and so we were like comparing passports. This is me in Pompeii, which was a dream come true because since I was little I've always wanted to be an archaeologist, and of course that dream has changed now that I'm a college major. But that was like, it was amazing being able to go there and see what happened at Pompeii.
Yeah.
This was at Positano, which was just a little island next to Capri in Italy, and we were there for only like a few short minutes, but it was beautiful, like seeing like the clouds come over. This was Thanksgiving. My Korean friends and I, we all went to a Korean restaurant for Thanksgiving because they didn't have the traditional American Thanksgiving. I went and saw West Side Story all in Italian, and that was an experience because I know West Side Story is like one of my favorite musicals, so I knew like all the songs, but it was really interesting to see how they did it in Italian.
Yeah.
And this is me. Another thing different about Italy is that they take you on a lot of field trips, which is has never happened here at college. And so we were able to go to the Museum of Cinema in Italian. And this is a picture of me just messing with one of the things that they had there. And this is a picture of me, like I mentioned earlier, at the Duomo di Milano, one of like the largest cathedrals in Italy, and it was breathtaking. It was huge. Like you can't tell how big it is on here, but it was ridiculously huge.
Were you able to kind of like look around on the inside?
Yes, we were able to look around on the inside, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then this, the biggest sport, of course, in Europe is soccer, and so I was able to go to a football game, and that was an experience because there's different like we went to the AC Milan game because there's 2 Milan football teams, and they were playing each other at the time, so it was a crazy game.
I bet. And
this was the last day I was in Italy. All my friends and I got together and had like one last party, and we were together till like 3 a.m. just like talking about our experiences, and it was a sad day.
Yeah. I'm sure it was really awesome that you were able to meet so many new friends and everything. Are you still in contact with a lot of them?
Yes, I talk to them almost like every day. The time change kind of stinks, but
Right.
we end up trying to talk to each other every day.
That's so awesome. So what were the other places you traveled to? It sounded like you went everywhere.
Yes, I went a lot of places. I went to Romania, and I also went to Germany, London, England, South Korea, and everywhere in Italy, because you could get to like the southern part of Italy within 3 hours on the train.
Oh, wow. So that was pretty quick. And so we've got a couple more pictures.
Yeah, this is when I was in Romania. It was very cold. It was in October. But this is the first country I visited besides Italy. And this is me and a friend of mine. But we were in front of Bran Castle, which is Dracula's castle. So it was kind of spooky.
Ooh. So on to another great subject is all the food there. How was that?
I probably gained a lot of weight while I was over there, but we had to walk everywhere, but also besides taking the subway, so I was able to balance like keeping the weight off and eating this great food. In Italy, the culture of cafes is huge, so like every day I'd go to a cafe and have a cappuccino. And this is a picture of me in South Korea. I also got to visit. They have like these little shops that you would just go into, and the food there was absolutely delicious as well. And this is another picture of me and my friends having a rooftop party. This was like the middle of the semester during midterms, so we were just like taking a break and eating a lot of food.
Oh, that's perfect.
And also in Italy, the huge culture of gelato is a big deal. So this is a friend and I walking back to our apartment after getting some gelato. And then the best thing, of course, ever was the pizza. And on the left there, that's a fries and hot dogs pizza, which sounds weird, but it was actually
American.
really good. Yeah, very American in Italy. And then, of course, on the right, just the traditional pizza. But this is the best pizza I've ever had, yeah.
Awesome. And I think we've got a couple more pictures of the different places you actually went to.
Yeah, I went to also London, and I got to go to like the Harry Potter studio tour and on a Muggle tour. And yes, this is
so
me
exciting.
in front of the Hogwarts the train, and I was so excited. I was like, my 12-year-old Harry Potter self was like so excited. And we were on the Muggle tour, and we got to visit like all the vendors, like where the whole Diagon Alley was based off of. And yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Awesome. And so you mentioned transportation, like using the train and everything. How was that? Was that
the
really
train? That was the first time I've ever been. Yeah, it was first time I'd ever been on a train, and I was able to get like a student discount, so the prices were actually very cheap if you like got them in advance. But the longest train ride I was ever on was about 4 hours, so that was a little brutal after a while. But it was so cool being able to like seeing the scenery pass by and like the sun come up on the train. It was really cool.
Oh, I bet that was so beautiful. And so you went to a couple other places. Were you able to just take the train there as well?
From Italy to Korea, I had to take a plane, and it was about a 12-hour flight. And then from Romania, I also flew because it was just quicker. It was only an hour versus the train, which is about 5 hours. And I flew through a lot of like cheap airlines, so I never paid more than like $30 or $40 for a round trip flight in Europe, and that was absolutely amazing for my account.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like you got quite a few really good deals. And so going to Korea, how was that? I feel like that's such a different culture shock there as well.
I've never been to any Southeast Asian country before, so when I researched a lot about the culture before, and I knew a lot of people already in Korea. I have an exchange sister who came and lived with me when I was in high school for about a year, and so that's kind of how I got into the South Korean culture. And this is a photo of her town, actually, Bucheon in Korea. And I stayed with her and her family there for about 2 weeks over Christmas and New Year's. And this is a photo of one of the temples I was able to visit, like the lanterns and stuff like that. And this is a picture of me in front of King Sejong's statue, and he's the one who created Hangul, which is the alphabet that the Koreans currently use. And this is a picture of me and my friend Julia. She actually came to Southern and studied here, and that's how I met her, and we were able to meet up for a couple hours while I was there. And this is a picture of my friend's mom. I call her, she's my second mom, in front of one of the gates to South Korea that is currently still in Seoul.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and this is a picture of my friend Tommy and I, and he also came to Southern. and we were able to hang out for a couple of days. It was really fun.
Awesome. So you mentioned like kind of transportation and everything was pretty easy to maneuver around once you got the hang of it. What was one of your most favorite things to go to, like as far as going to Korea and everywhere? What, like food and everything?
I think my favorite in Korea was, of course, meeting up with old friends and being able to see my sister, because I hadn't seen her in about 5 years. But then also the food was absolutely amazing. I was able to eat live octopus, which was really interesting. I wasn't going to eat it, but I was like, I'm not going to be in Korea for a while, and I'm just going to try it. And you have to chew it really fast, or else it'll stick to your mouth, and then it'll be a bad deal. But it was good, actually. It just tasted like salt. And then I also had kopchang, which is cow intestines, like fried, and that was interesting. It was really chewy. And then the drinking culture in Korea is really big. So her friends and I went out and had soju, which is like their equivalent to like sake in Japan or something like that.
Awesome. So what was something that really stood out to you going to all these different countries, like culture-wise? Because I feel like when you were in Italy, it's close to, I guess, American way of life, but then going to Korea and stuff, was there anything that was really strange that you had to do day to day?
Well, in Italy, what was strange is that every single person and their dog smoked. I'm not even kidding. Like, even in the classroom, the students were able to smoke, and the professors as well, because in the main corridor where I had one class, there's no air conditioning, so didn't really matter.
Very filtered.
Yeah, it didn't really matter if they smoked, and so it was just a thick cloud of smoke everywhere I went.
Wow.
But I was lucky I only had one class in there on Thursdays, so I just like covered up my mouth once I was walking through people. So that was really strange to be able to like see that everywhere. And then what's also strange is the grocery stores. They don't have a lot of big grocery stores like here in America. They don't have Walmarts. They just have like little markets, and I had to go to the grocery store about 2 to 3 times a week because I would run out of milk in like 2 days because the milk there was like really small, and you can't get like gallon size like you do in America.
Yeah, so is that something that you kind of miss, or was that something that you're really happy once you got back to America?
Yeah, like the convenience of America is what I miss, like being able to go out at 3 a.m. and get something I need. Like in Korea also, like between 2 to 7 p.m. they close a lot of the stores and the markets because they people go home and spend time with their family, and then they go back and open up for dinner. So if you hadn't ate between 2 to 6 or 7,
you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, so that's why I also had to go to the store like a lot before it closed to get food like during that time.
And so has traveling abroad really like influenced the way that you live now? Because I mean, you were there for 5 months, you mentioned. So was that like a big shock once you got back to America?
It was a very big shock. As soon as I stepped on the plane back home, I could just feel like it's different change because I was from Italy back to, I flew into New York. Everything was very different. The flight attendants were like a little rude and like stuff like that. And I was been used to like everyone in Italy just like smiling, and even if like they knew I was a foreigner, people were still like nice. Almost everyone was still pretty nice. And so I've learned a lot since I was over there. I've learned to like be patient about a lot of things, especially like learning a new language. And so like I kind of felt the hardships of someone like coming over here not knowing a lot of English, and so me going over there learning Italian was like very difficult, and I learned a lot of patience while I was over there.
Yeah, I would definitely say that was something personally just from traveling abroad. That was one of the biggest things coming back here. I felt like everything was much slower, and I was just taking everything in a lot more. So what are some tips, I guess, that you would give students as far as traveling abroad? What would you have done differently to prepare yourself better?
I probably would have saved a lot more money. I thought I'd saved enough, but I didn't for like everywhere you wanted to go. And you'll never know, like when you get over there, you can't plan for everything. So some person might say, hey, let's go to Romania for the weekend. You're like, okay, but then you've already planned something else. So you just got to go with the flow and save a lot of money and never travel alone. I always went with someone. I know a lot of people think, oh, I want to do a solo trip. I did do a solo trip, but it was like within Milan. So like I just like went back home like in a couple hours. But yeah, that's the number one thing is don't travel alone. And if you do, just watch your surroundings. Because I had a friend of mine who try to go through couch surfing, and which is like where you can stay with someone for free and they can show you around, but she ended up kind of getting in a scam, so you just gotta like be careful.
Yeah, that's definitely really scary.
Yeah.
Some situations to get yourself into. So coming back to America and you're finishing, is this your last semester?
I have 1 semester left. I'll be graduating in December
All right.
2017.
So has that kind of changed the way, I guess, that you're learning and taking things in after doing all of those classes?
Yeah, all my classes are drastically different from Italy, so I'm doing way more papers than I was in Italy, way more studying for exams, because I only had about 3 exams when I was in Italy, like midterms and a final, and it's very different, very stressful. I wasn't as stressed when I was in Italy because like the class load, I took about 5 classes, but the homework wasn't as hectic as it is here, and I'm taking about 6 classes this semester.
Much more homework.
Yeah, much more homework.
Yeah. So that is really interesting, and I'm really hoping that everybody can gain a lot of insight on studying abroad, and I'm excited to personally do it myself. So thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you.
If anybody else is interested in learning about any more study abroad programs, you can head to the Missouri Southern website, which is mssu.edu, and you can click on the tab. Thank you so much. My name is Jillian Wirtz. We'll see you next time.